Hello team and welcome back to the Football Social, live on Soccer AM and Football Daily's YouTube pages. And what a tasty fixture we have for you today from the Emirates. It's Arsenal versus Liverpool. Of course, the home side licking their wounds after losing the North London derby against Tottenham. And they face a Liverpool side which haven't lost to the Gooners in 9 fixtures. And my oh my, what a lineup we have for you at home today, starting with a bona fide Premier League legend, 450 appearances to his name. He's the second goalkeeper to score a goal in open play, more importantly, I would say. And he was once dubbed Superman by Gordon Strachan. It's the one and only Brad Friedel. How are you, sir?
Chris, how you doing?
I'm absolutely superb. All the better for you joining us, Brad. Make sure you get your questions in for Brad. We'll be fielding them to him as the episode rages on. And we have some Football Daily royalty joining us. His Premier League pedigree not quite the same, but his Football Daily pedigree certainly up there with the best of him. It's Michael McCubbin. How are you, buddy?
Hello, yeah. I'm good, mate. I'm good, thanks. Yeah, happy to be here.
Top
As
man,
always.
Loving that Inter Milan top. Doesn't relate to the fixture, but absolutely stellar that. And rounding off the show, like he normally does, sometimes in style, sometimes not so much. It's Will Brazier. How are you, mate?
Yes, good, mate. Yeah, good to be back on here. Leicester today. I've got a fringe from about 2006 I'm rocking at the moment, so not the best.
Lovely. And how can people get in touch with you, Will, as the show continues?
Yes, if you want to get in touch at Football Daily, at Soccer AM, using the hashtag TFS, get your best questions in. We've got Brad Friedel on the show, easy for me to say, Premier League royalty. Get your questions in for him and we'll get them answered.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a stream. So like Will said, make sure you're partaking. We like to put you at the heart of the action, don't we? Let's check out today's results then, first and foremost, because there's been some surprise results, starting with Burnley versus Wolves, where Chris Wood stole a point at the death of the 96th minute equaliser. David Brooks' goal in the 88th minute, not enough for Bournemouth versus Manchester City and Tottenham. A convincing victory in the end, but it was quite shaky for a moment there. Newcastle holding them at 1-1 at one point. So not ideal for Arsenal, that result, but they'll be happy to see Burnley grab a point at Turf Moor. But of course, the big fixture, Arsenal versus Liverpool, live at 8:15. Make sure you're with us for the entirety of it, because we're going to be getting your questions into Brad Friedel. Bottom of the table next. Let's have a look at how that changes the complexion of the bottom half. It doesn't do an awful lot, does it? We've of course had Norwich confirmed as our first relegated side. Aston Villa have their fixture coming up, and Bournemouth, a point would have been valuable for them, but they couldn't quite do it at the end. Let's go to the top. So champions Liverpool versus 10th place Arsenal. But of course, they won't be resting on their laurels, Jurgen Klopp's men, because they are chasing all sorts of records, aren't they? And I'm sure the first one on their list is 3 victories out of 3, which would amount to 102 points, effectively making them the greatest Premier League side ever, at least points total-wise, surpassing Manchester City's 17-18 benchmark of 100 points. Okay, let's get the Arsenal team sheet then. Now we've established that Premier League greatness is up for grabs, the moniker of the best ever. So it's a 3-4-3 still for Arsenal, and we have Pepe gets the nod after being hauled off in the North London derby. We've got a phone notification going off in the background, but we're going to power on. Saka is back in the lineup, as is Lucas Torreira and Reece Nelson. Martinez, of course, 6 clean sheets in his 10 games, so we'll be looking to add to that here, but it's going to be a tough task. And Liverpool sticking with their customary 4-3-3, and that 3 are normally pretty deadly against Arsenal. Salah's on 19 for the season. If he scores in this game, he'll be one of 4 players in Liverpool's history to score 20 goals for 3 seasons on the bounce. So a nice little personal accolade for him to keep one eye on. And as a front three, they have scored 19 goals in 26 games against Arsenal, who have been better at the back under Mikel Arteta, retaining 7 clean sheets in their 17 games, but they're going to have their work cut out today, aren't they, gentlemen? Brad, I want your thoughts first. How are you feeling about this game? Your old side, you made over 30 appearances for them. Do you have any loyalties in this fixture, first and foremost? Let's just establish that.
So I grew up a Liverpool supporter, played for Liverpool, Tottenham. So I think it's safe to say I don't want Arsenal to win today. Yeah, I think right now where both the clubs stand, Mikel Arteta is in a rebuilding phase. And then with coronavirus hitting, it'd probably be more of a stop-start for him. With regards to Liverpool, they were phenomenal this season. It's a shame that coronavirus hit. Is one of the best sides ever put together in the Premier League. If Liverpool hadn't already won the league by now, and if they really needed these points to lift a trophy. I would only see one winner in this, Liverpool. In saying that, if Liverpool come with the mentality of champions and they play like they can, I don't think at this moment in time, take my allegiances away, but I just don't think this Arsenal team can live up to what Liverpool has to offer. If Liverpool is going to be a little bit complacent and going into it, already winning the championship, then then anything can happen, and Arsenal do possess some players with great talent. I do think Mikel Arteta will have some fantastic ideas, and he seems to be an excellent head coach. And he also got a vast amount of experience with one of the best coaches around in the world in Pep. So, it should be Liverpool. You never know because the mentality of these kind of fixtures at this stage of the season are so important. But Liverpool has been outstanding this year.
Yeah, it's interesting that Brad touches upon mentality there, because Liverpool have dropped 5 points in their last 4 games. Very uncharacteristic for a side that were so dominant before McCubbin. Do you see them slipping up again today? Do you hold out any hope for Arsenal?
And Liverpool are pretty much back to full strength. I think they're fielding a stronger side than they have in their last 2 games. Obviously, with Salah, Mane and Firmino up top, I just think that's going to be a real struggle for that Arsenal defence. Obviously, Arteta switched to that 3 at the back after the loss to Brighton, and it seems to have generally worked for them so far. But it's not the ideal setup for them. It doesn't seem, and especially against that Liverpool attack. I do feel like they could get caught out.
Yeah, for sure. A savvy observation there. They do have the FA Cup on Saturday, don't they? Will, you're always a very positive man. Do you harbour any aspirations for Arsenal in this fixture at home? Not exactly resurgent, but they've been better under Mikel Arteta, right?
Yeah, I think when you look at the game at the weekend, it was just down to one set piece, wasn't it? And I thought they had a lot of ball in the second half, and they had a few chances of Aubameyang getting the bar, and I was quite positive about them. I think obviously even like having the solidity of the keeper at the back, he seemed to turn up as well. And I think next season these youngsters will start to bleed in a little bit more. So it's exciting time, but if they can get a shock result tonight, that would just give a bit more momentum for next season, I think.
Yeah, Arsenal have struggled to retain leads so far under Mikel Arteta, haven't they? They've dropped 21 points, the most in the Premier League during his tenure. So even if they do go ahead, then they stand every chance of being pegged back. Right. Will, have we got any questions flooding in to keep us ticking over until kick-off, buddy?
Yes, Brad, loads of questions coming in for you. And we'll start one from Ben Cherry. He said, do you view Alisson as the best keeper in the Premier League currently?
Best right now. It's really difficult to differentiate between Alisson and Ederson. I love watching them both. It's not often where a goalkeeper, you tune in to see someone catch the eye, but they're so good with their feet. They're so confident with how they play. I think those two right now are are the two top standouts in the Premier League for me.
Okay, so we have standout, Brad, but who would you opt for, Alisson or Ederson?
Well, I don't know. Tough. I'll go Alisson, but listen, they're joints, to be honest with you. But I go Alisson just because he plays for Liverpool.
Yeah, fair enough. I just wondered how much you appreciated what Ederson was doing as a goalkeeper, and I wanted your thoughts on sort of how he's maybe progressing. Let's just focus on the live pictures for a second. We'll come back to Ederson and Alisson shortly after. But Liverpool getting welcomed onto the pitch, getting their champions reception by Arsenal. The God of great that we can detail these. We can go to these pictures. So we'll leave that running in the background. But back to Ederson. When you see him play, Brad, is it crazy the things he's doing on the pitch right now? In your view as an ex-keeper?
No, it's not crazy. When you look at how goalkeepers are trained and developed at younger ages, playing with their feet is something that is emphasized, and he's remarkable at it. And I think it was last season. It was a pass, it was a 580-yard pass that he made away at. Oh, it could have been home, but it was against Everton. I remember it's sublime stuff. It really is. So if Man City is trying to play out of the back, you have the extra player. Yes, he's going to get done a couple of times because he'll take some risks. But I do think it's fun to watch, and I do think he's very, very good at it as well. It's not as if he's bad with his feet, and it's not as if he can't pull off some of the risks. I think as a head coach, you have to to respect it, and that's how you want your goalkeeper to play. And it's not going to be for every coach, but the way that Pep wants to play, it seems like it works. And when you have a goalkeeper that confident, same with Alisson, he's confident with his feet, it makes it very difficult for opponents to press you.
Right, lovely stuff. Lovely analysis. I like that we've already got the Alisson versus Ederson debate out of the way. No doubt those questions will still flood in. It's been a real interesting narrative, real interesting battle, hasn't it, this season? And Alisson shading it. Well, not shading it. He's taken it convincingly, hasn't it? The crown. Right, Will, have we got any more questions for Brad?
Yeah, lots flying in. One for me, Brad. I'll kick things off myself, actually. I just saw David Luiz warming up there, and obviously he's a top-class defender, but he has got a rick and a mistake in him. As a goalkeeper, how conscious and nervous would you be of someone like that at the back?
I don't think it'd be nervous. I think conscious is the better word. Nervous isn't. I think when you have defenders in front of you that are a little bit more strict and a little bit more of a risk taker, then you have to just be on your toes for possibly him missing the header or passing the ball back to you when you're not used to it, or maybe facing a break or not used to it. But it's more conscious, not nervous.
We're seeing pictures there of Martinez, who's had to wait for his opportunity to become Arsenal number one. Of course, Bern Leno forced out with an injury. How impressed have you been with him since he came in, Brad?
Yeah, he's been pretty solid, to be honest. And I think you touched on it with Mikel Arteta, where there's 7 clean sheets out of 17. I'm obviously not involved in his coaching sessions and training sessions, but he's going to have a rebuilding process. And they do need to shore up the defense. Arsenal has needed to shore up their defense for some time now. Going back to many years, going back to the Invincibles. So this is maybe where he's going to first try to focus and then try to build from there. A lot of people and when they have poor results, they're going to make comments and things of that nature. But I'm sure he's trying to build something, and I would think he's looking at the back, whether it's a back 3, a back 5, or a back 4, to try to help out, not shifting so many leads and goals.
Yeah, absolutely. McCubbin, a few interesting individual battles out there today. What have you got your eye on in this fixture?
Well, I'm interested to see how Kieran Tierney does in that back 3. If he is actually starting in a back 3, as we've seen, I think depending on how things go, Arteta could switch that to a back four and bring Suarez back into the back line and have that midfield three of Torreira, Xhaka and Nelson, or even Saka if he wants to drop back. But Tierney, I think, will be an interesting one because obviously we've seen him do pretty well at left wing back since the restart, but playing in a back three, haven't really seen that much of him. And obviously you're a big fan of him, Chris, from his Celtic days. But seeing how he matches up against what will likely be Mo Salah, I guess, will be pretty fascinating, actually. I think that this will be probably his biggest test so far in an Arsenal shirt.
Yeah, extremely athletic. Obviously, in my opinion of him, completely partisan. I do think he'll probably be the best left back in the Premier League eventually. Maybe he'll establish that tonight after not a shaky performance against Tottenham, but not as convincing as previous run-outs. So we have kicked off, like we said at the start of the show. If you've got a question for the one and only Brad Friedel, make sure you send it into Will, and he'll cherry-pick the best ones to field to the former Liverpool stopper. Have they been flooding in, Will? Do I need to encourage people any more than that, or was that compelling enough?
The floodgates have opened on this dam of a question, or question dam, if you will, Chris. One here from Brendan
Lovely.
Coyle. I'll start with Brad. Do you think Liverpool can get this record tally? And on top of that, how important will it be to the players and the coaching staff as well?
I mean, it's been a long wait for the title to come back to Anfield, and it's such a wonderful club and such incredible such an incredible journey this club has been on. If you go back in the decades and the years, and I hope they get the record tally. I think this team, if there was no coronavirus, you would have just seen them steamroll through and do it, but. Jurgen Klopp has done such a wonderful job. It's so hard when he had taken over to get into a position where you're battling the money of some of the other clubs. He and the owners have just done a remarkable job of building what they've built.
Yeah, and of course, some key pieces of the puzzle there just came into display. Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, I suppose you wouldn't have minded playing with them as a goalkeeper, Brad, just offloaded it to them nice and simple and letting them do the work down the flanks.
Yeah, and you just touched on that. This is going to be a really important part of the game for Arsenal, because when you do play with three in the back, that can quickly turn into five in the back if you have fullbacks on the other team that are going to be as attacking as Liverpool's. And then when you have the likes of the front three Liverpool have, it's very, very difficult not to have to defend with a back five, just because of how quickly they can attack up those flanks. And you'll see here, you overloaded 2v1. It's really difficult to stop that, especially when you have the pace that the Liverpool players have.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to touch upon, obviously you mentioned your time at Liverpool. It was in the early 90s and wasn't too long after they'd claimed a league title in 89-90, right? So how different is Liverpool now, and what sort of cultural obstacles did Jurgen Klopp have to that maybe he wouldn't have if in your period?
Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate. I didn't play for 3 decades, obviously, but I played during 3 different decades, and each one of them was different. And I think the biggest change was when Arsene Wenger came into the league, and the type of athletes and the type of nutrition that and the different training methodology that he brought into Arsenal really made the likes of Sir Alex change the way he was doing things. And those two really had the Premier League in the mid to late 90s all sewn up between and going into the early 2000s between the two of them. They're so difficult to play. And Liverpool fell behind a little bit during that time. So there, once the finances globally became so important, and then the Chelsea spending came on the scene, and Tottenham also got some some very good financial backing, and you have Man City with their full backing. It started to become more of an uphill battle with regards to the amounts of money you needed to pay for players, and then we all know the history with Gillette and Hicks, and they really needed something to happen in a positive way, and it was a mountain to climb, that's for sure. But Jurgen Klopp has cracked it, and the board backing him has cracked it, and it is and they are superb to watch. They really are. I think even if you're not a Liverpool supporter, you would admit how fun they are to watch when they're at their best. So, and I'm sure. I mean, I do not know Jurgen Klopp at all, but I'm sure he's building for next season and thinking of the season after that and things of that nature. Although he'll probably say he's taking one game at a time. But the ball movement, the power, the athleticism, he's got it all right now at the club.
Yeah, wonderful insight, and we'll keep kind of building on that and fleshing out sort of your experiences as a pro as the stream goes on. So please get your questions into Brad, and we'll get all those anecdotes behind that we love to hear on Football Social. Will, brief exhale from you. Was that Arsenal that came close then?
Yeah, there was a bit of a pinball in the box there. I think Kieran Tierney was down the right-hand side. Or I don't know, the ball was bouncing about, but nothing really came of it. But no missing signs for Arsenal.
Lovely stuff. McCubbin, you're a Manchester United fan who's on an Arsenal versus Liverpool stream wearing an Inter Milan top. But of course,
I'm a Maverick. What can I say?
Manchester United giving up the initiative against Southampton, and at one point, at various junctures throughout the season, it didn't look like you were that much further ahead than Arsenal. So how have United just? I mean, Bruno is going to be central to your answer more than likely, but how have United pulled away from the likes of Arsenal in the race for Champions League football?
I guess, yeah. I mean, obviously you touched upon Bruno there. Bruno's been massively important. If there's one signing that United have made in the last few years that has made a big difference, it's definitely been him. And he really has been that important. I think there's a lot of things that were happening towards the start of the season and in the last year in general that have helped. I think the signing of Maguire and Wan-Bissaka has obviously shored up the defence a lot, and I think Solskjaer's coaching has improved that defence a lot. But added to that, the arrival of Bruno and the return of Paul Pogba, that midfield just operates so much more slickly now. Just because you've got a quicker thinker there, I think that was the main, one of the main criticisms you could throw at this United side over the last, pretty much since that Ferguson retired, is that they're just not quick thinking enough on the break. They're not, they don't hit teams quick enough, and Bruno has. Just complements that front three so well. Obviously, we know the front three are super quick and are improving together as well. Rashford and Martial have built up a good relationship over the years, as we know. But having that creator behind them who can operate at that same speed and bring other players into the game, it's just been great to watch. Like Pogba generally has kind of come into his own as well as a result. It's just really good to see. And there's not. It's not a perfect team yet. I think defensive midfield probably needs to be looked at in the long run. The defence can still improve, there's probably there's definitely a case for a right winger to be brought in as well. But I think just the amalgamation of the defence getting better this season. No disruption in terms of a manager as well. I think Arsenal switching manager halfway through the season is that's a bit of a shock to the system as well. Although it was justified, just all those players, all those forward players being fit and on top of their game in the last 2 months has just been so vital.
On the subject of falling behind, what about your old club Tottenham, Brad? Because despite winning today and making it back-to-back victories under Jose post lockdown. The quest for European football, particularly Champions League football, looks extremely far away.
Yeah, again, it's similar with Arteta taking over. at Arsenal. When Jose Mourinho took over at Tottenham, he's going to have different thoughts and philosophies on players, player acquisitions, and who he wants to go out and purchase. He'll have different thoughts on which academy players to bring up and bring through, as opposed to Mauricio and his staff. Very rarely is one right and one more wrong than the other. It's just different. It's going to take time. And they had a transition after preseason had already taken place, and a transition after some games had already taken place. And it's hard for a head coach to come into a club where the spending is not in the top 2 or 3. Mauricio did a wonderful job with the budgets that they had to keep that team fighting for titles, getting into Champions League finals, being in the top 4. And Jose Mourinho now is going to have to figure out how to do that with his own players. So I don't think you can judge Jose just yet and look at this as like a reflection on his coaching style or anything of that nature until he's had his transfer windows. It'd be interesting to watch the transfer windows with Jose and Daniel Levy and the board and see which way they go with the purchases. I think that'll be fun to watch from afar. But I don't think it's time to say like a turmoil or doom and gloom or anything of that nature. They still have an incredible playing staff at the club. They have one of the world's best ever head coaches, and they have a board that will back the manager. So it'll just be interesting to see what players they bring in.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about Tottenham as the game progresses, and it's a good job you're a natural talker, Brad, because we haven't had a shot on target from either side in the opening 10 minutes, so things can only get better from here. I also wanted to talk about your transition into management, but we'll get to that, I guess, in the second half. Oh wow.
Oh, my. Did that come off the post?
Okay, well. Firmino hounding down Martinez there. Martinez almost cannoning it in off Roberto Firmino. I'm not sure if we can we count that as our first effort on target? That is mightily close. What a way that would have been to open up this game. Roberto Firmino, smile on his face, but then again, he always has a smile on his face, doesn't he, Will? Is any other comments making you smile, Will? Have we got any great questions lined up?
With this audience, you always get great questions, and they're coming in thick and fast. There's one here with Howie Black. He says, Brad, what do you make of the criticism David De Gea has received this season?
It's life as a footballer. I respect David De Gea more than most, to be honest with you. I think when he first came to Man United, I think he was 21. Is that correct? 2021, and he did not have a good start to his Manchester United career, and he was getting a lot of criticism, probably 6 to 8 months or so, and even Sir Alex had to, back him with certain pundits that used to play for the club and things like that. And it's not easy as a young player to come back from that. And then I think David made himself into one of the Premier League's all-time best goalkeepers, and I have a huge amount of respect for him for that, because that's not easy to do when you're young, to then gain the respect of the entire country and pretty much anyone in the world who follows the league. So if he had a poor season to his standard, there could be other influences. I don't know what's going on with the contract, what he's like in his family. Does he want to move? Doesn't he? There was a lot of talk about it. But he's one of the world's best goalkeepers, and he has a huge amount of respect from me for sort of coming into one of the biggest clubs in the world that has one of the biggest audiences, not just on Matchday, not just in the UK, but social media and globally. Not to do well at first, and then to turn around and be one of the world's best. So I'll give him a pass without a doubt for having a season that's not up to his normal standards, and I think the world of him as a goalkeeper and as a person.
I mean, it's a great tale of persistence, Brad. But in terms of tales of persistence, yours also ranks pretty highly, doesn't it? I was reading that you refused a work permit, which scuppered moves to at least 3 Premier League clubs before you joined the likes of Galatasaray and obviously came back to English shores with Liverpool. Can you give us any insight into that? What clubs could Brad Friedel have represented had he got that work permit?
Sunderland, Newcastle. I got denied a work permit with Liverpool in 1992. Then in 1996, I got the work permit. In 1992, 93, I was denied a permit with Nottingham Forest as well when Cloughie was there. So that was, I think that was the 4. I don't think I'm missing one. But yeah, frustrating times. But it also gave me the opportunity to go play for Galatasaray and for Brøndby. And play for a short time in the inaugural season MLS, so it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, the 4 horsemen of the work permit apocalypse. How did those early years then in the MLS and in Turkish football in the Super League, shape your career?
Well, I would say definitely the Turkish experience helped with the pressure. The fans out there are crazy. Great people, great life off the field. Really enjoyed my time, and it was probably the best time of my life off the field as far as learning experience. Coming from Cleveland, Ohio, and then getting to go live in a country with completely a different culture, different language, different religious beliefs. A lot was going on in the world. It was just a tremendous learning experience. So I was a history major in college as well, and I did a lot of studying on Ottoman Empire. So I bore the pants off a lot of people, but it was interesting to me. So it was a great.
Picture that, Brad, if it stays down now.
But it was a wonderful time of my life. And if anyone can play and play at a high standard in the Galatasaray-Fenerbahce derby with regards to the atmosphere, then you can handle pretty much anything. Obviously the standards of football, if you went to the Real Madrid-Barcelona derby, obviously better, but just for sheer atmosphere, that one's one of the big boys around the globe.
What's it like being as a goalkeeper in one of those derbies? What's it like being as a goalkeeper in one of those derbies? Because obviously you're getting more flack than most on the field.
Yeah, and you can hear it the most, probably. Well, when I first got there, it was nice because I didn't speak any of the language, so I had no idea what they were saying. And, so it didn't really matter to me. Then when I started learning the language, but then by that time I was already solidified in Turkey and happy at Galatasaray, and I was on the good side of the fans at Galatasaray, so it was okay. But no, I had my fair share of me in those games. That was the most dangerous part of it, when you're just standing there and a rock or a bottle or something comes hurling by your head. But it was interesting, but great fun. It really was.
I mean, talking of great fun, were you there when Graham Souness planted the flag?
Yeah, I played in the game where he put the Galatasaray flag in the middle of Fenerbahce's pitch. That was something.
And how was it sampling that firsthand? I mean, not just the reaction from the fans, but the grizzled determination of Graham Souness as well. Imagine that was something to behold.
Yeah, well, I played for Graham at Galatasaray. He tried to purchase me when he was at Benfica and Southampton. He was the one who first initiated contact when he was at Liverpool, and I played for him at Blackburn, obviously. So we had a very good relationship, still do today. And he was a big influence on my career. I think the best way to put it, if you worked hard and gave an honest every day, then as hard as Graham could be, he was soft as can be to a player like that, because all he really wanted was honest effort from the players, and if he got that, he was good. The ones that didn't give an honest effort every day, well, those are the ones where there was trouble.
right on cue. Talking of honest efforts, what a great effort that was from Sadio Mane and the Liverpool high press. They've really upped the tempo in the last 5 minutes.
My screen froze.
I just thought, you were playing it really cool, Brad. Great build-up play from the left-hand side, Firmino to Robertson. We've seen that play time and time again. It's worked an absolute treat here as well. And Robertson, another assist for the Scottish captain as Sadio Mane wraps that away. And I've got to say, it was starting to look like Liverpool were getting a grip on this game, McCubbin.
Yeah, it did. I think Arsenal were pretty bright in the first 10, 15 minutes, to be honest. I think that, they obviously like to press themselves under Arteta. And yeah, they look quite solid. Here we go.
Oh wow.
Never mind. That could have been a quick reply, but yeah, it just shows, doesn't it? Like the experience that Liverpool have with breaking down teams like this. It's just, it just feels like they could score again in the next 5 minutes. Whereas for those first 15 minutes, they didn't really threaten much. Arsenal looked fairly solid. God, they've
Oh my goodness.
missed the ball again there.
We're seeing
Granit Xhaka giving it away like he did against Spurs last week.
Yeah, we're seeing the full effect of the press
quite
now.
difficult to big up Arsenal at this point.
We're seeing the full effect of the press.
It feels like the floodgates are going to open, doesn't it?
McCubbin's getting excited. Are you getting excited at home? Is there another goal on the cards? Let us know in the comments. Get your questions in for Brad Fiedel. We've already covered off the Galatasaray era. I want to ask you why you left Galatasaray after a successful first year to go back to the MLS.
Liverpool came in for me, and I needed to get caps to get my work permit, and they were sure that I could. And back then, United States didn't play their games on international fixture weeks. So if I wanted to play international football and get my caps to sign for Liverpool so I could finally get my work permit, I would have missed something 12 or 14 games for Galatasaray that season. So we did a deal on loan to Columbus so I could get my international caps, and then I signed for Liverpool shortly after.
Nice, playing the long game then in order to get to Liverpool. I love that. And when you finally arrived at the club, obviously you're competing with some very good goalkeepers such as David James. How was, immersing yourself in that culture at such a storied club? Can't imagine it fazed you.
I mean, no, it was fantastic stuff. It was the only time in my career, looking back on it, that I didn't play consistently. And by the time I started playing consistently, they had Gerard Houllier had purchased Sander Westerveld and spent quite a bit of money on him at the time, and I needed to go play somewhere. Being a part of Liverpool Football Club was amazing, and still being part of the history, even my history is very, very minor with regards to Liverpool. But it's still, it's such a storied club and an incredible place to play. I would have loved to have stayed there longer. I would have loved to have given a much better first impressions, because I think first impressions are key when you go to clubs. But it wasn't to be, and then I needed to move on. It wasn't that I wanted to move on, but I needed to move on first team football. But anybody that plays for Liverpool, that you're one of the biggest clubs based on tradition in the world. The second that you step through the doors, whether it be at Melwood or at Anfield. And all these players now are remarkably lucky. And they're obviously remarkably talented, but remarkably lucky to be associated with a club like this. And when they get to my age and they're sitting in my shoes watching, they'll if they don't realize now, they'll realize it then.
We'll take your word for that. And of course, you went on to personify first team football, and we'll talk about that 310 game run very soon. But before then, we've got our first price boost of the evening, and it is Liverpool to win 2-1, 11-2. Love that Viking clap, Will. Very nostalgic. McCubbin not quite getting there. Hopefully, we'll be more in sync with the next one. Odds accurate at the time of recording. The subject to change. You have to be 18 plus to play along with us. I'd love to see 2 more goals. It didn't look like we were going to get one before that opener. We've got our first drinks break, and Mikel Arteta is giving his players a dressing down. Like McCubbin noted at the start of the show, this is a slightly weaker Arsenal because they've got one eye on the FA Cup, so we do have to bear that in mind. And this is a Liverpool chasing down 102 points. They want that moniker as the greatest ever Premier League team. So they are bang up for it, it would seem, and it's told in the first 25 minutes. Over to you, Will, for some questions then to guide us through this water break.
Yes, Brad, they're coming in thick and fast still. One here from Des. He says, how do you rate Christian Pulisic's debut season for Chelsea?
I think it's been a huge success so far. It's not the Premier League game is completely different than the game on the continent in any of the countries, just from the sheer pace of it. And even if you're quick, even if you're fast, it does take a little bit of time to adapt to it. And I think he needed that little time, especially at the beginning of the season. But I think by and large it's been a very successful season. And as the years tick by with him at Chelsea, I think they'll see and will see any Premier League supporter, especially Chelsea supporters, will see a very good player. And the more that he can play at a club like Chelsea, and the more experience he can get bodes well for the U.S. national team. So I'm very happy with what I've seen so far, and very happy that he's at such a big club.
Yes, Christian Pulisic has made an excellent of himself in recent weeks, hasn't he? Liverpool almost getting in down the right-hand side there across from Trent Alexander-Arnold, not quite finding Firmino at the back post or Salah at the front post, and Martinez collected. Okay, let's go and get another question then. Just as Liverpool build yet another attack, getting quite relentless now, Will.
Yeah, speaking of relentless, the pressure is relentless on Aston Villa at the moment. Brad, what do you rate of their chances staying in the Premier League?
They still have a chance, of course, because there's points to be played for. They have the game in hand, and another club. I know I was just there 3 years, but what a fantastic club to play at. I get asked the question all the time, like, what was your favorite club to play at? And I was one of the lucky footballers. I really didn't have a bad club that I was at, and I will say that Aston Villa, the way they treat the players and treated everyone around the players, was really second to none. And I hope they have enough. It's going to take some work to do, obviously. That club itself deserves, with the infrastructure, to be in the Premier League. And they did the difficult part by getting there, but sometimes it's even more difficult staying there. Is once you do relegate, you're finding so far behind the eight ball against some of these other clubs. So I truly hope they stay up. There's some tremendously nice people associated with the club I still stay in touch with. So let's keep our fingers crossed for Villa that they can stay up there.
Talking of your... Oh, go on, McCubbin.
We might be about to ask the same question, to be fair, because obviously you touch upon Villa having such great infrastructure and how difficult it can be to get back to the Premier League. As they showed themselves, they were down there for 3 years in the Championship. But what's it like? It must be difficult seeing what's happened to Blackburn in the last few years as a player who played so much for them.
Yeah, Blackburn and Villa. When I was at Blackburn, I joined them. We were in the Championship. We promoted that season, but the players that Graham Souness brought into the club were all Premier League players. And from that time, so we won automatic promotion by finishing second place year. We had three clubs, all three clubs that promoted, Bolton, Blackburn, Fulham, stayed in the Premier League after that. So it was a very good competitive division that year. And after that, I think for the next 7 years I played there, you'll have to go back to the record books, but I think we qualified for Europe 5 of the 7 we had, and it was one of the best run family clubs that you could have been at the time. And I know that was down. It was the Sir Jack Walker, John Williams, and Andrew Pincher, and Tom Finn, and Robert Corr. They did an excellent job running that club. And once the club was sold, and I don't mean to disparage the new owners. I don't know the new owners at all, but it just wasn't the same. And I felt that a little bit. I had talks with John Williams before I left the club. And it soon became a selling club, whereas before they would sell the player, but they would always replace the player. So if Andy Cole left, Dwight York would come in. If Dwight York left, Roque Santa Cruz would come in. Craig Bellamy would come in. We always had replacements for every position. And I just got the feeling towards the end that was going to stop, and not happy that I was right, and it was nothing that I wanted to be right about. And I had some incredible years of my life at Blackburn, but what's happened is not nice. And again, another club I would love to see back in the Premier League. You know, Aston Villa is bigger fan base in a bigger city, and financially they could compete with the big boys at one stage. Blackburn, a much smaller club, much smaller city, but such a well-run family club, and you just see that when certain people leave the clubs, how quickly things can deteriorate. And a lot of times when fans are complaining about how some clubs are run, you really have to do your homework because the grass isn't always greener. So, and it's a shame what's happened. And again, just to reiterate, I hope they can get back up, both of the clubs.
Sure.
So you, of course, at Aston Villa became, you might not like me reminding you of this, Brad, but their oldest outfield player. And then you went on to play for, is Lacazette offside? Yes, he is offside. So I will continue my question. You went on to play for Tottenham and, played pretty much every game until your second season for them. Did you anticipate a club of Tottenham size coming in at that point, or was that just a bit of a serendipitous, occasion happening?
When I went to Tottenham? Sorry, it broke up a little bit.
So no worries. Did that opportunity...
Here we go.
No!
Lacazette!
He's done it again!
Lacazette with the goal! Has he robbed Virgil van Dijk? We asked you about Tottenham more often. Apparently that's Arsenal's good luck charm.
So stop doing it.
Let's just break down this goal before we ask about Brad's move to Tottenham again. McCubbin, take the reins.
Yeah, so the Arsenal press really worked well there. Van Dijk and I think is it Matip or Fabinho getting caught out there? No, sorry, not Matip. Getting caught out there was Fabinho, and Lacazette steals it off Fabinho, takes it round Alisson, and it's an easy finish for him in the end. And it looks like Reece Nelson pressed Van Dijk so well there. Van Dijk's calling for a foul, but I don't think there's really much in it, to be honest. Fair play to Arsenal, because this is what they were trying for earlier in the match, and they seem to have, Liverpool seemed to really get a foothold in it, quieting them down a lot, but they took their opportunity there, and I think that's Lacazette's third in his last 4 games, so he's on a bit of a roll now as well, obviously getting a lot of criticism at the start of the season, up until lockdown, to be honest, but he's been very bright these last few games.
Well, he only had 1 goal in his last 10 starts prior to scoring in the last fixture. So this is a certified run of form for him right now in comparison. And Arsenal back on the attack, cross to the back post, but it's collected. I think we'll probably all be in agreement, but did anyone see a foul in there on Van Dijk? Because he's certainly looking sense. Brad, what did you make of that?
Nah.
Yeah, no. The player grabbed his arm a little bit, but I don't think there was a foul. I think it was just a very uncharacteristic mistake from one of the world's best defenders. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I imagine as a goalkeeper, it would fill you with confidence seeing Virgil van Dijk line up ahead of you. Just to round off our question that we asked you earlier, so when you were 40 years old and you signed for Tottenham, did you anticipate that opportunity coming around? When was the first time you heard about that, Brad?
So, sorry, you broke up just a little bit. I think you said when I was 40, and then you keep talking about my age a lot.
But signing for a club like Tottenham in the twilight of your career must have been great, right?
Yeah, no. So what ended up happening? I did 3 years at Villa, and Villa offered me another contract, West Brom offered me a 2-year contract. Aston Villa offered me a 1-year. Liverpool offered me a 2-year contract, but to be the number 2, and then do some ambassadorial work. That was when Kenny Dalglish was there, and Tottenham offered me a 2-year deal at the time, but definitely for the first year was to have a chance to be the number 1. Daniel Levy was very honest with me from the beginning that they would be looking for a long-term replacement. A club like Tottenham that wanted to build and get into the Champions League was, they were there with Harry Redknapp anyways, wanted to stay there. Weren't going to hire a 40-year-old as their long-term replacement, so they were on the lookout at the time. As it turned out, my fitness always just stayed up and stayed high, and I ended up doing 4 years, but while at the same time focusing on coaching, and I went through my UEFA B, A, and my UEFA Pro license, all while at Tottenham, and then finished my Pro license my first year first year in retirement. So I stayed there 2 years longer than I thought I would. I played more games into the second season than I thought I would, but I always kept my fitness levels high, and what a tremendous club and tremendous time at the club to be involved with for the twilight years of a career. You know, a lot of time players would go to a China or go back to, go to the United States or somewhere, go into Qatar to finish their career, and how wonderful it was to be able to stay at a club that was fighting for Champions League and building the training ground, building a new stadium, getting your coaching badges with one of the best instructors, John McDermott, that is in the world. So just lucky for me that it ended in that manner.
People think Gianluigi Buffon is a freak of nature, but Brad Friedel did it first, playing at the top tier until well over the age of 40. Let's go back into the comments. We'll see what people are saying.
Yeah, one here from our very own Ash. Brad, obviously you've got first-hand experience on it. Obviously we've got Pulisic in the Premiership now, but a lot of people keep seeing Martinez smashing in goals for Atlanta. Could he do something over in the Premier League?
Joseph Martinez is a really good player. The MLS level, in MLS, they spend a lot more money, the clubs, on attackers than they do on defenders. I think Joseph would find it very, very difficult in the Premier League to score at the rate that he's scoring in MLS. If he's with the right team, and you never know, confidence, and he can play. And I don't want this to sound like I'm down on the player, but it would be a big step up for him. Does a great job. Atlanta has done an incredible job starting their club. Put incredible fan base. But it's a big step. Whereas Almiron has come over and obviously recently started to do a much better job. That Almiron has an incredible amount of pace. I think it was right for Almiron to come over. I'd be very interested to see how he would do, but it wouldn't be a certainty for me that he would be an instant success.
Okay, fascinating insight. Thank you for that, Brad. We can take you to our second price boost now ahead of this Liverpool corner, and it is Lacazette to score a brace. Like we've established, he's in fine form at the moment. Was 7-2, is now 9-2 odds accurate at the time of recording, and are subject to change after the 18 plus to play along. Sadio Mane heading over there. And there we have it. The chance fizzles out for Liverpool. Maybe should have done marginally better with that, McCubbin. Peeled off his man at the back post, made himself some space.
Sure, and he's proved himself to be decent from set pieces this season as well, hasn't he? At least I'm thinking back to that header against Aston Villa in the last minute, which was a pivotal moment in this campaign, which was one of my favourite goals of the season, to be honest. Such a good header. You might have expected him to at least put it on the target there. There was a bit of a clear sight on goal, but I think he's looked the most dangerous of Liverpool's attackers tonight. looks really bright up there. He's won the ball back in the final third a couple of times as well. So yeah, I can see him getting a brace tonight, I'm sure. And I feel like, yeah, after that mistake, I feel like the Liverpool back line are really going to, try and shut up shop. Yeah, so I see the next goal coming from Liverpool, to be honest, despite Arsenal getting that foothold there. It's still been all Liverpool, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I forget, Brad, you mentioned MLS there. I wanted to discuss the MLS returning with you because it's caused some controversy. So can you give us an update on the situation out there and how things are panning out with the minimum?
Yeah. Up to they had an idea to start with every team in Orlando, and for everybody's group games in a mini tournament style format would count towards the regular season, the first 3 games. FC Dallas has, I think it was 11 players in one, but I do know it was 12 in total in the delegation had positive tests for coronavirus, and Nashville also, I think, had 9 or 10 positive tests, so they sent both those teams home. How do I say this without going against all the politics that's going on? There's a lot of people over here. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people over here that are not adhering to or to the mask policies. There's a lot of people over here that want to claim that because they live in a democracy and they're free, they can choose to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. There was a lot of people. We had a very unfortunate incident, obviously, that's led to the Black Lives Matter all across the globe now, where there were a lot of demonstrations, where a lot of groups of people congregated with one another, I think for an incredible cause, don't get me wrong. But that didn't help matters only with regards to coronavirus. Then we had independent, where people wanted to gather. That didn't help with coronavirus. We had the opening up of states and opening up of beaches, and people, especially in California and Florida, some of the warmer climates, where they just weren't adhering to the policy. So now we have a huge uptick in certain areas in certain states, and one of them is Florida, where all the MLS teams are. If players adhering to the rules, not staying in their rooms, and or just being unlucky and being around the wrong person, then it can spread very, very quickly through a team. I don't know what a right and a wrong is with during a pandemic with regards to how to set up a league. I don't think any of us do. Any of us had any of the answers, and everyone was trying to make the most prudent and correct decisions at a time. And I hope MLS has it all under control now. But it's been a lot of big positives that the league has started, and then with Nashville and Dallas have a couple of problems. So we'll just see how it pans out and see what they want to how they're going to keep going on in the future.
There we have it. Comprehensive breakdown from the safest pair of hands that America has ever produced. So we'll take that as fully correct. Just on the game, Mo Salah narrowly missing out on the opportunity there to make it 20 goals for the season. But we are seeing again Arsenal pressure.
What a goal!
Wow. Liverpool into mistakes, and Reece Nelson has a goal. What a sequence of events. That was unfurling in front of me. Will, you took in that goal. You drank it in. Can you break it down for us, bud?
Yeah, a delicious pint of goal was just consumed. Reece Nelson, what a finish there as well. He got into that space, put it past Alisson. Klopp looked shocked. I think we all looked shocked. That 2-1 on the price boost. Looking tasty now. It's just terrible defending. They're already ready
That's
for the holiday.
unlike Martinez, right?
Well,
extremely
I think what you're seeing here,
mistake from
with both
Alisson,
the goals, this is what I was alluding to at the top of the program. This is the mentality issue. You've already won the league. We've had coronavirus. The training it was full blown, Champions League full blown, and then you have this big stop, and you needed it was 6 points, I think it was, to win the league. You got it. You did it. I think it's very difficult for all the players to be on top of their game all the time now after this happened. And
Sure.
I don't think we would have seen 2 goals like that go in against Liverpool if this was 5 months ago.
Oh. Just to be clear, my score prediction would have been 3-3.
Martinez collecting from Oxlade-Chamberlain there. McCubbin, I've maybe got the most difficult question of the night for you, mate. Who would you rather see, established as the greatest Premier League side, at least from a points total, Manchester City or Liverpool as a Manchester United fan? Because, of course, Liverpool might be surrendering their opportunity to get 102 points here.
Yeah, I think... it's not. It would be nice to not have either of them, but seeing as City have already done it, it would be nice. It would be nice for Liverpool not to, then do it again, because it's just, it's just a bit ridiculous. Here we go. But yeah, it's crazy. I think this is I was certain that City, Liverpool weren't going to make the same mistake again, but there they were caught by the press once again. That time, Robertson who got caught out. So. This is the shakiest I've seen the Liverpool defence all season. But back to your question, I think, you wouldn't want to see that record get broken again from a United perspective. But at the same time, it has been an exceptional season from Liverpool, hasn't it? I can't really fault them. They've just been that much better than everyone else. And I guess from a kind of footballing standpoint, you would maybe want to see Liverpool do it. Obviously, there's been... a lot of talk this week with the financial fair play ruling with Man City. It's quite hard to get your head around because FFP has the way that it's been conducted by UEFA over the years is been inconsistent in certain instances, and I think that it's clear that the way that this investigation was conducted, or at least the way that UEFA conducted it this time, just wasn't sufficient, as the CAS ruling showed. So getting into the ins and outs of it is pretty difficult. But even just, on the face of it, Liverpool have constructed this team in a much, much more sustainable fashion than Man City have in the last 10 years. And from that alone, I think you do have to look at it as a bit more of a special achievement in some senses. City were working with pretty much unlimited funds for a long time. That was one of the reasons why they were able to get in Pep Guardiola. They already had that infrastructure, whereas Liverpool have had to be a lot smarter in the market. And it's taken a much more kind of, I guess, not a more cohesive approach, because clearly the Man City project is incredibly cohesive and works very well. But what Klopp and the hierarchy have done at Liverpool, and like Michael Edwards, and I know Brad, you were alluding to it earlier, is something pretty special in this day and age, despite the advantages that come with Liverpool having that kind of stature and being able to attract those kind of players purely from a financial sense. It is an achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can talk about the progress of FSG in the second half, because they, like Michael rightly stated, have transformed this club into the Premier League behemoth that we now see. But they are trailing to Arsenal at half-time at the empty Emirates. Arsenal having 2 shots on target and scoring 2 goals. So it's an odd segue into an interview with a very chipper Jurgen Klopp, who is detailing and reminiscing about this famous Premier League campaign, and we can hear from him right now.
Talking, the man himself has crept into the shot here, and I think we can join Jurgen Klopp live from a hotel on Merseyside now, where he's been with the players. Congratulations, Jurgen. Can you put this into words for us?
No, unfortunately, I have no words. It's unbelievable. It's much more than I ever thought what would be possible. Becoming chairman with this club is absolutely incredible. Knowing how much Kenny supported us, it's for you as well, Kenny. You had to wait another 30 years that your club can win it. It's for Stevie, who had to wait a long time, and now it's for all, because this all is built on your soul, Kenny, on the legs, on Stevie, and the boys admire you, and it is easy for me to motivate the team because of our great history, and so it's just it's unbelievable. It was really tense, the 95 or 100 minutes of the City game. You can imagine. I didn't want to be involved really, but obviously when you watch it and you are involved, and then you hope, and then the big chances Chelsea had, penalty situation, all that stuff. So it was quite intense. But it is an incredible achievement of my players. What they did over the last 2-3 years is just exceptional, and a pure joy for me to coach them.
Well, contribution of the manager as well, Jurgen. Is that the overriding feeling for you now? The emotion of joy? Is there some relief there as well because it's been such a long time waiting for this moment?
Okay, honestly, I didn't wait 30 years. I'm here since 4.5 years, but and we didn't have a chance really before last year when it was the first time that we had the chance. So it's the second year, so it's quite an achievement. But it's anyway relief because of the 3 months interruption. When nobody knew how it will go on, and then you don't know 100% how you will come back. The games are difficult in the Premier League. Each game is difficult. So I was very happy last night with the game, so that gave me the 100% feeling we will be fine. That was important for the players, for us, for our supporters. But tonight, I only can tell you it's for you out there. It's for you. It's incredible. I hope you stay at home or go in front of your house if you want, but do not more, and celebrate it. It's all here, and it's all here. We do it together in this moment, and it's a joy to do it for you, I can tell you.
There. How special... There we go. How special are these moments, Jurgen, and how important is it that you do celebrate in style?
Look, we are in a bubble. We're in a bubble here. Only people. We get tested twice a week. I know how it is. And apart from this tonight, we do absolutely nothing. We drive to a training ground and go home. Drive to a training ground and go home. That's all what we do. And so this is a safe place. That's what we wanted for tonight. That the boys have to have the time together. I know that out there it's still difficult for a lot of people, but in this moment we couldn't hold back. We had to come together. We were together anyway after the game already. We go after the game in a hotel for recovery and stuff like this. So it's very important because they are unforgettable, these moments, and you need a few pictures for them. And we have a lot of pictures from the season. And now we have pictures tonight from the celebration, and we will create pictures in the future whenever it will be with a parade for all our supporters. Then we will be together and enjoy this in a proper manner. But tonight, we did the best. We made the best of our situation, I would say.
Fascinating insight, as always, from Jurgen Klopp. And we can hear a question that I wanted to pitch you to, really, Brad, about what has been the biggest thing that he's instigated at Liverpool that's allowed them, after 4 years, victory in such a way. Have you got any insight behind the scenes?
No insight behind the scenes, other than playing against the teams when they were first starting to build and rebuild. I think you quickly saw how much improved the back four was. Was the pressing and the fitness that the players had. It was starting season after season, getting better and better and better, and the pace that they attack, they win the ball, and then attack against you is second to none. You're going back. I heard you guys talking about who's the best team in the Premier League based on points total. Well, if you go back to the best Man United teams, how quickly they worked in transition. Go back to the Invincibles at Arsenal, how quickly they worked in transition. This Liverpool team is no different, and that is Jurgen Klopp. That's how he trains them. That's how he wants the players to play. And now with the financial backing of the club, where he can go and get the most talented players for his system, it's just all working right now. Whereas before, I think some of the head coaches in the past might have had to get their third, fourth, or fifth target, whereas I think Jurgen Klopp can go out and get his number one target now. And if you can keep building on that, the 1 to 2 players a year, there could be no stopping for long periods of time.
Which is why it was so surprising that Jurgen Klopp didn't get Timo Werner, right? Because he was Klopp's primary target. He'd been pursuing him for a number of months. Were you surprised at that transfer? They couldn't get it over the line, FSG, because they've been very comprehensive up to now, like you said.
Well, you also do have to work within every player you would box into a certain budget, and they have the money to go do it. But there will come a time when even your number one target becomes a little bit ridiculous on the funds, and you will at some stage have to say no. So I wasn't in those discussions, but it could be to where the player or the club was just asking too much, not because Liverpool couldn't pay it, but because they didn't see that fit in with the rest of their squad, with how they were going to purchase other players. But I'm sure they would have had discussions about it, and I'm sure if they wanted to do it, they could have gone and done it. But it may not have just made the financial sense in the end. Whereas before, years previous, I don't think they could have even financially done it. That's kind of my point. I think every player will eventually have their price tag. Liverpool could pay it, but it will be down to that man there and the board to pick which ones they actually want. But I think he can do that more than they could have 10 years ago.
McCubbin, do you think they're going to have to be a lot more active in the market, given the rumours that have circulated about Manchester City and their willingness to spend again post the ban being dropped?
Yeah, obviously that was big news, especially for the transfer market this summer. I think that was, City were going to have more than 200 million to spend this summer, which, considering they spent nearly that much last summer as well. It's I guess it's quite frightening if you're like a Liverpool fan and you've finally cracked it this season, and then to see City go on what could be a massive spree. I was literally just hearing just as half time went that apparently Ferran Torres may be done. Him going to Man City. He's obviously a very promising attacker from Valencia. Not sure how concrete that is, but it's clear, that City are already making moves. They could be going in for a centre back as well. I think at the same time, I think kind of like what Brad was saying. I think there doesn't really seem to be any panic at Liverpool. Like 2 years ago, they decided to pull the plug on that Fekir deal, even though he seemed to be the perfect replacement for Felipe Coutinho at the time. Again, with Timo Werner, there doesn't seem to be a lot of panic around, not getting him and him going to Chelsea. It just seems there seems to be a real kind of patience about the way that FSG go about their business. And as we know, they're very good at being able to get quite inflated prices for players that they want to sell. Like Dejan Lovren, for example. It looks like they're going to sign or extend his contract by a year, even though it looks like he's probably going to leave the club. I feel like the only reason why that is so that they can get a better deal on him, or get a better price for him, I should say. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them get between 10 and 20 million for him this summer. Little things like that kind of add to that budget that Brad's talking about. I wouldn't be panicking too much, but clearly, if Liverpool do want to dominate in years to come, they are going to start having to look at some of those positions, which maybe at the moment look like they're pretty settled. Especially in like maybe the forward positions or on the right and left. But having said that as well, they've got decent youth coming through. Ryan Brewster scored a great goal today for Swansea. Curtis Jones has looked very good when he's played. So, I think. I wouldn't worry too much as a Liverpool fan. I think they will do some business this summer, but it's not going to be on the level of Man City's. But I don't think that's a reason to panic at all.
Yeah, right to flag some of that youth, Nico Williams and Harvey Elliott, to add to that list as well. They've been absolutely outstanding when given the minutes, particularly Nico Williams. He looks like a very complete youngster already. Who would you guys like Liverpool to sign? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll read them out to Brad Friedel, and we'll see if he gives it the thumbs up or the thumbs down. So Brad Friedel might become Liverpool's new director of football in the second half, and you've got to pitch transfers to him. We'll see how that goes. Will, before then, let's go over to Social Corner, mate. What are the people saying?
Yeah, Brad, obviously, loads of questions for you. Picking the best of the bunch, and here's one for you. Who is the best centre-back partnership that you had in front of you?
Oh, wow, I had a lot of good ones. Ledley King's up there, although it was towards the end of his career, he was very good. I mean, Dawes was very good. Yunus Kabul, when he was very good going back. Ryan Nelson, Chris Samba, Henning Berg. Wow, the best. Martin Larsson was really good at Villa. That's a tough one to name just one. I might just have to go with those that I named. Jan Vertonghen, really good. And I'll probably forget. I've probably forgotten more that played in front of me that were top defenders. Like all those ones I named, I loved playing behind. Richard Dunn was very good at Villa, especially the first season that he came in. There's a lot of good ones. Very, very, very consistent defenders in front of me that I had. Those that I named. So it was always easy to play in front of the ones that didn't take risks and were very, very good in the air and things like that.
Yeah, a great question. And as you can see, the players lining up to come back out on the pitch in a very hotly contested match between Arsenal and Liverpool at the Emirates. And Arsenal finishing that second half looking the more confident side. Uncharacteristic mistakes from Liverpool, Virgil van Dijk, then Alisson, the two bastions of their defence, ultimately leading to them losing 2-1. But I think we can anticipate a lot more action in the second half. Maybe that was, a prediction at the other end of that phone call. Who knows? Right. Will, back to you then, mate. Let's get some more questions.
Yeah, well, we're just coming to the end of half-time, Brad. Obviously, you had the fantastic defenders in front of you, but who was the toughest striker that you had to face?
I get asked, as you can imagine, I probably get asked this question all the time. There was definitely playing in the Premier League. I see the players coming on the pitch. I'll be quick on this. There was no one. Alan. You go back to the different generations that I played. Alan Shearer was spectacularly good. You go to the United teams, Coley and Yorkie and Van Nistelrooy, Ole Gunnar, incredibly good. And then your Henrys at Arsenal and your Viltorts and your Overmars. Dennis Bergkamp's one of the very best I ever played against. You get into Robin Van Persie had a couple of years that were absolutely superb. Didier Drogba going to the Chelsea teams. Didier Drogba's, and you go to the Man Cities and Sergio Aguero's that played, against Robbie Fowler, with Robbie Fowler, Michael Owens. All these guys were so good, it's impossible to pick just one. Gianfranco Zola.
Giving you the eyes, though. Who was the best at giving you the eyes? Who was the most unpredictable striker?
The best giving the eyes was probably Henry. But Shearer was more difficult because he would just tell you where he's going and just smash the thing.
Early booking there for Lucas Torreira. Right on cue. Brad said the word smash. He went into the tackle and he's been cautioned for it. Do we think Arsenal can hold up this level of pressing, this level of energy, Michael? Because like we established at the start of the show, they've dropped 21 points from winning positions, and it's probably just been an inability to enact Arteta's game plan for the full 90, right?
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Obviously, Arteta, came in 6-7 months ago, and has tried to implement this. Tried to implement a more high pressing style, and In this game it's worked so far. But yeah, like you said, they've dropped a lot of points from winning positions. This does happen when coaches come in. We saw it when Klopp came in at Liverpool. We saw it when Pochettino came in at Tottenham. We saw it when Pep came in at Man City as well. That they do take time to implement, just because the fitness levels that are required are so much higher. And especially with a team like today, which is a little bit more made up. Obviously, Torreira hasn't been starting many games in the second half of the season. He's on a booking now, so he's got to be careful. He's the only real defensive player in that midfield, so that's already a little bit of a worry. Obviously, defensive midfield is a bit of a weak point for Arsenal in general. So, yeah, I think we'll just have to see how it goes the next 15 minutes. At the moment, it looks like the energy levels are still pretty high. And, I guess there are a few more fresher legs out there with the changes that have come in. But yeah, I think we'll be in a better place to judge on 65 minutes. If Liverpool can create a few chances between now and then yeah, the game could start to turn, I think.
Now we have it a booking for Trent Alexander-Arnold. We spoke about weak points in the Arsenal side there, being defensive midfield. Brad, it sounds obscure to even ask you and say this out loud, but does this Liverpool side have any weak points? We spoke about recruitment. Is there a particular area that you would look to add to in the summer ahead of getting our audience's suggestions into you?
The only thing that I can see from the outside, again, without being there on the training ground every day, is you would always want to look at your players that are getting into certain age ranges, and then you'd want to go and purchase so you already made a replacement if that player is if that player's legs start to go a little bit. That's where the board and Jurgen Klopp will obviously know far more than I would with regards to things like that. So that's where I think they'll be looking. Of course, if they have a player out on their mind that they think is going to be a better goal scorer than Firmino, they might go get him. But that's not easy. So if you're going to find somebody better than Mane, Salah, then then go get them. And if they have the funds to do it, then fantastic. But that's not going to be something that. Oh, here's a chance.
Here we go. Salah.
Absolute
there?
So that's
pinball fest.
So that's not going to be
in the Arsenal penalty area. Will, what was happening there, mate?
It was absolutely a pinball wizard. It came off Salah's bum, then Alexander-Arnold popped it in. Luiz cleared it. Robertson had a shot. That was blocked. He had another one shot. And then Salah was trying to pop it in. And David Luiz actually defended really well, which is something I've never said on the Football Social.
Yeah, David Luiz, the perpetrator for 4 penalties this season. If he concedes one tonight, that will be a record that we'd welcome, witnessing firsthand on the Football Social. Big fan of David Luiz, but also big fans of records like that. Liverpool looking slightly more threatening than in the second half. Jurgen Klopp's obviously had some stern words. They are very keen to secure those accolades that we spoke about earlier. So let's see how it unfolds. Michael McCubbin giving Arsenal, till 60 minutes before he judges them. Have we had any transfer suggestions from Social Corner for Brad to rank, Will?
Yeah, one in particular that kept getting shouted at me in the comments over and over again, Brad. Thiago, obviously he's at Bayern Munich right now, but heavily linked with Liverpool. What do you make of that one?
A wonderful player. Again, any player that they're going to go for, there'll be 2 groups. So I shouldn't say any player. There'll be 2 groups of players. There'll be, it'll be one of the world's best young players, or one that Jurgen Klopp thinks is going to be able to come in and be better than what they have right now. So I think Jurgen Klopp will also, based on that, look at players that might have some Champions League experience, come from clubs that are win at all costs. So he keeps getting the winning mentality into the club as much as possible, because that's so important when you have such long seasons, that you have players that even if they're not at their best on a day, they just know how to grind out a result, because it's so important when you get between November and February. and then you're going to have, then the European games start again, and if you're in the League Cup, if you're in the FA Cup, you need to have big squads, but full of winners. That's so those are probably the two areas that they're looking at. I think it'd be a very good signing.
Yeah, Thiago Alcantara, what an absolutely majestic footballer he is. I'm sure there'll be a lot of teams competing for his signature in the summer. So a very good first suggestion. We've got the thumbs up from Brad Friedel. Keep peppering Will with your suggestions in the comments, and we'll read a few more in just a moment. Brad, I wanted to talk to you very briefly about your transition as a manager. Jurgen Klopp, a former player, Mikel Arteta, a former player, most managers are. How did you find it transitioning from player to manager, and what was some of the harder obstacles to overcome?
The hardest obstacle is that you're not on the field to correct mistakes. That's the hardest one as an ex-player. The other hardest obstacle was to really well and truly, especially when I started with the youth players. I was the under-19 national team over here in the States, and John McDermott told me this at an early time. You really have to take your own ego helmet off and put it to the side, because you're starting from square one, and you have all these ideas in your head on how football should be played, but how can you actually get it across and teach to the kids? And then with the pros is how you can teach and then also keep them on board. So having the knowledge is not the issue. It's organizing the knowledge to be able then to teach it. And once you can go into it not thinking that you're the best at it, then you have a really good chance of succeeding. Someone like Mikel Arteta, what a wonderful opportunity to have to learn from one of the world's very best at some of the world's biggest clubs.
Oh, chance!
Here we go.
Yeah,
Salah. What a save! What a save!
Mo Salah. Still on 19 for the season. McCubbin, break down this chance for me.
Yeah, so it's great diagonal ball to Trent Alexander-Arnold, well controlled, then into Salah. A lovely bit of skill to take it past Luiz, and then tries to kind of almost dink it from that angle, and it's a great save from Martinez in the end. Probably expected, but considering how close Salah was, it was a very good reaction from him to tip it over the bar. Salah's looks a lot brighter in the second half, already 2 good chances.
Big time. Bit of an effort there after he sort of took it past his man. Like you said, he almost tried to guide that, tried to dink it. We see Naby Keita warming up on the sideline. Instead, backing a big investor.
Sorry, I sometimes you cut out. Were you asking me if...
Absolutely no worries, Brad. I've got plenty of experience with cutting out, so don't you worry about that. You're not the first or the last. I'll probably time at some point. So, if you can hear me now, you think he's primed to make an impression next season? Probably yet to see the best of Naby Keita.
This is another really good player. Sometimes it's a confidence thing as well. When you see the guys in your position doing such a good job, it's tough to get the confidence rolling yourself. And when you get on such a winning formula within the club, sometimes it's hard to get your foot in the door. But another really good, really talented player, very athletic, very quick, and there's nothing to say that he can't be one of the stars next season.
Lovely stuff. I think we are waiting to get Chris Hamill back, so it's just me, myself, and I, or me, Brad Friedel, and Mikey McCubbin, the best boy band that you've never heard of. Brad, I wanted to pick you up on some of the Spurs stuff as well. Harry Redknapp, renowned for his stories, but I wanted to know if you had any stories with your time with working with Harry.
There's lots of stories. Before I came on the program, I don't think I definitely didn't call him to ask him permission to say a few. I think we have to leave Harry's stories to Harry. If he wants to tell them, he can tell them. It was a very easy transition for me at 40 years of age to go in and play under someone like Harry. He's been around the block and was around the block for years. He really left me to my own devices on how to prepare. I mean, if I didn't know how to prepare for a match by the time I was 40, I have some issues. So a very relaxed environment week, and then a very intense environment on the weekend. And he really ran his training and ran the club based on the experience and the quality of players. And that first year at Tottenham, we had a really good team with Adebayor and Luka Modric and Gareth Bale, to name a few. So very very fun to play under Harry at the age of 40, no doubt.
Lovely stuff. We'll pick more up on the Spurs stuff. But Mikey, a triple substitution. Put your managerial cap on. Would you have made these changes?
I mean, at this stage again, it's quite when you're 2-1 up, switch it up this much. But I mean, at the same time, Liverpool are knocking on the door a lot more. I think bringing Aubameyang on, obviously, he's been. I mean, for me, he's been Arsenal's best player this season, aside from maybe Leno, but definitely their best outfield player. Amazing goal output, despite the team struggling to create chances for a lot of the campaign. Getting him on, I think, is good at this stage. Gives them an extra outlet up top, especially if they can get back into the groove with pressing Liverpool in their own half. I think he'll be. Obviously, he's a lethal forward. Joe Willock and the Bios as well, I believe, coming on as well. So Torreira's off. That midfield maybe missing a little bit of defensive presence at this point, but I think Ceballos did actually put in quite a decent amount of defensive work last weekend against Tottenham. So maybe Arteta wants him to sit back a little bit and try and kind of sweep up behind Xhaka. Although obviously he does create chances as well. Not bad substitutions at all. Interested to see what how kind of Joe Willock fits in, because obviously he's still pretty raw. Generally seen as a midfielder, but I guess he can assist with the attack as well.
Lovely stuff. Let's go back to your time at Spurs, Brad, as well. And as a sort of man of mystery, he doesn't do many interviews, and when he speaks, everyone listens. It's Daniel Levy. What were your chance there? But what were your interactions like, and what was it like to work with Daniel?
Really good. I negotiated my contracts at Tottenham. I found with Daniel, once you agreed the deal and you shook hands, then it was a done deal. Very very tough negotiator, but he also was one of the few chairmen that turns quite a bit of profit and enhances the value of the clubs. I mean, if you look at the club when he took over, or when they took over together, and look where it is now, in the stadium and the land acquisitions, the training ground, the coaching staffs that they've had, the players that they've had, all while not ever budgeting themselves inside of the top four. So he's done a good job. I've never been in the room with them when it comes down to how they do the transfers and the interactions with the head coaches while the transfers are going on. So I have no insight onto whether that's a good experience or a bad experience overall. But with me, he was always a straight shooter. Always answered the email, answered the phone, and I never had an issue talking face to face with Daniel. He does not like the limelight, that's for sure. But I think if you look at what he's done from day one to now, it's been very positive stuff.
Yeah, very intrigued to see that documentary coming out soon, if he'll be a part of it. But Mikey, a double substitution, get you back on the old substitution watch. What do you make of these changes?
Hello, mate. How does that sound?
Yeah,
I can
it's
hear
an
everyone
interesting
nice
one. I
and clearly.
guess
I'm not sure what happened
I
there.
don't know.
I could still hear
wouldn't
them.
have necessarily
That's
made
probably
them
my
with
internet, right?
Liverpool chasing the game at this point. Who is it who's gone off? Firmino and I didn't see the other. Oh, Oxlade-Chamberlain for Keita and Minamino. I guess maybe Klopp just wants maybe a little bit more mobility in that forward line. Minamino's had a, I don't know, it's hard to kind of see with Minamino because he hasn't had really enough game time yet to really know what he's made of. And I guess coming in halfway through the season and then lockdown coming, it's hard to really gauge what he's going to bring to this Liverpool side in the long run. But definitely getting a bit more energy in that forward line will definitely help. So yeah, I guess it had to happen. But I think taking Oxlade-Chamberlain off, I don't know. I think his kind of combativeness in the midfield is always really useful in the big games. So personally, I wouldn't have taken him off, although I kind of understand wanting to get some fresh legs on in the midfield.
Ooh.
Good chance.
Gentlemen, I am back.
Who's
much
back?
like Liverpool's end of season form, my internet very patchy at the moment, so I can't promise I'm going to stick around, Brad. And if we don't have another goal, I might just use it as an excuse to ferry off the presenting opportunities to Will. But there we have it. For now, I'm back. And have we got any blockbuster questions to really, announce my arrival, Will?
Well, yeah, just as it was away, Phil fed me a stat, Brad. Liverpool have had 14 attempts to 2. I mean, with these changes, Mikey spoke about them at all, but can you see 2-2 or can we see the ultimate 3-2 comeback?
The whole second half has been Liverpool. I like the sub. It's a player that hasn't had a lot of time with the club. You've won the league. You're losing. So it's kind of it's a win-win situation for the player. There's not a lot of pressure on the player. There's no fans in the stadium, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to get more playing time. And he's a very good player, very intricate player. And I think Jurgen Klopp sees Arsenal sitting back a little bit more, being a little bit more compact, and going to play on the counter. So he wants a player that's very good in between the lines. So. I think it's good. I do see a 2-2. I don't know about a 3-2, but I do see Liverpool getting the next goal. As each second ticks off, there's more and more pressure mounting against Arsenal.
Okay, lovely stuff. I can announce, as well as my internet being back, that a price boost is also on the cards.
There we go.
I know you boys have been waiting for it with bated breath. Liverpool to win 3-2. What a comeback that would be. Was 6-1, now 7-1. Odds accurate at the time of recording and are subject to change after the 18 plus to play along, of course. Will, you're the most optimistic. Week in, week out. Do you see any chance of that happening? And how have Liverpool started this second half?
Nah, not really, to be honest. No, I'm joking, of course. I think Liverpool they've been all over it. They've been all over it this second half, like Brad said. Lots of chances coming in. What are we on, 65? Get the obligatory drinks break out the way. We've had 83% possession, Liverpool, so I think they'll knock them down eventually. I think they'll. It's just a relentless. I mean, who did we have on? Was that great? Yes, can't remember. Charlie Adam speaking about how the fullbacks get involved, and I think the way that they keep pushing down. I think eventually, especially with Arsenal and David Luiz, you never quite know what you're going to get. I think there might be something in there.
I think Arsenal fans are going to be absolutely delighted with 2-2. Certainly the Arsenal fans at Football Daily were anticipating absolute slapping, weren't they?
Oh yeah, massively. And I feel like Arsenal more than the rest of the kind of big six clubs are used to getting turned over in these kind of games, especially against Liverpool and Man City. I just think they generally kind of, I guess when you look back at the last kind of 2-3 seasons, have tended to have had the kind of softest centre. So yeah, I mean, from an Arsenal fan's perspective, you're never going to back them in these. Although they are at the Emirates, they've had a decent. They've been pretty good at the Emirates under Arteta. But yeah, you probably would take a 2-2 draw on the balance of play. I think they've actually done all right. Like I think, when Martinez has been called on, he's been very, very good. Otherwise, the defence I don't think has been quite as troubled as as maybe we would have expected at the start of the game. Like they've been caught out a couple of times, but it's not like Liverpool haven't been getting chances close to the goal all that often, and a lot of the time they're chances that have been blocked. So yeah, but only 2 teams that Norwich have more pieces this term, so that's that'll be a bit of a worry. Here we go. Oh
Hello,
no,
just falling to Mo. Is it Minamino?
It was Minamino.
Who is absolutely dumbfounded that he's offside, but I think the replay will show that he is. Just talking, let's stick on Arsenal's defence. We can clarify that for you now. Was Minamino offside?
I think he was.
No, because it looked like there was an Arsenal.
Why didn't they let that play on?
Cedric Suarez was retreating from the right-hand side, playing Minamino well onside. But it might have looked like KT got in there. Did he tug him back there? I'm not quite sure. What do we think, gents? What was everyone's initial instinct? Starting with you, Brad. Did you see anything in that?
Not a lot. It's one of those instances. If you stay on your feet, you don't get it. If you fall down, you have in it. But should you dive? Then we go into the diving argument.
Love a dive.
What
do you think?
Was there anyone who repeatedly tried it on with you, Brad, over the course of your career? Always took the little feint, the little shimmy out wide, the Jamie Vardy's come to trademark.
El Hadji Diouf all the time.
What a name.
Oh. I love that there was a bit of silence before that as well, as if to just say it for emphasis, like you were exercising a demon there. So Diouf tried it all the time, and did he get away with it
all the
at
time?
Any point?
Yeah, he won a penalty against me at Ewood Park. I think I missed him by 3 yards.
Wow.
Oh, brilliant.
That's some skill.
We needed VAR.
And conversely, was there any teams that you were just, for whatever reason, you were just consistently unbelievable against, Brad? Did you enjoy playing any one particular side?
Man United. I had good games against Man United for whatever reason. They were some of the best teams that were ever assembled. I played quite a few decent games against Man United. I think one of my favorite things about my career was I was voted as like one of the top 20 or 10 things Man United fans hate the most.
Oh dear. I can't imagine you'd make it now, given what's happened over the last 6 or 7 years, Mike.
Yeah, but I do remember, actually, it's funny you say that. Like, I mean, I was pretty young, so I wasn't. It's a bit of a distant memory for me now, but I do remember during that kind of mid 2000s era when you were at Ewood Park, and especially the Mark Hughes era at Blackburn. I seem to remember. Yeah, I really, as a United fan, always not enjoying the Blackburn games or hearing about what was going on in the Blackburn games, because it was always inevitably.
Go back to the history books. I think at Ewood in the league, while we were in the Premier League, I'm not sure if we lost to United at home. I mean, we may have. I mean, and I know we did in the League Cup. But you'd have to, and listen, somebody could go on and prove me wrong. It's just, and could be my old and battered head talking right here. But I can't remember losing at Ewood Park. I mean, at Old Trafford, yes, but at Ewood Park, I don't think so in the league.
Yeah, I can't remember a notable victory. I remember some notable draws where, say, Blackburn were beating United, and then United would come up with a last-minute goal, and it would prove quite pivotal in whatever title race was going on that season. But I remember
there was a 1-1
obviously you had a bit
late.
Yeah, there was Scholes. I think Tevez got a late one as well at one point. But yeah, I seem to remember. I mean, obviously you had a big part to play in those games. I remember Morten Gantz Pedersen as well. Always a thorn in United's side as well. Always did us on free kicks. I seem to remember.
He had a tremendous.
But yeah, some great clashes.
Yeah, so it was one of those, and but yeah, I don't know why, because they were some of the best teams that, like I said, that were ever assembled. But maybe it's growing up a Liverpool supporter. I don't know, subliminally in my head, I had to play well against Man United. Who knows?
Did you prefer it? You know, a lot of, well, I say a lot of goalkeepers, like I've done some sort of research into this, but there seems to be some goalkeepers that enjoy a constant barrage of shots as opposed to being called into action once every 20-30 minutes and then having to concentrate on play. What kind of, how would you describe your style of goalkeeping to the uninitiated?
I enjoyed the games where you had more to do, as long as the first 10-15 minutes you did what you had to do well. If you were getting a barrage of shots and you were down 2-0 after 15 minutes, then it's not as enjoyable to have the ball in front of your face the whole rest of the game. But if you made that first early save or a comfortable catch on a cross or a punch and you got warmed up into the game, then it was far easier to have a lot to do. That's what, when you get the goalkeepers at the big clubs and they are on top all the time. We'll take Alisson and Ederson in this right now, because a lot of the games they don't have as much to do as the other goalkeepers. Your concentration levels have to stay up, and especially when you get into the winter months and it's colder outside, and it's just a little bit more difficult to keep yourself warm. It is far easier when you're warmed up in the game and you have lots to do. My style of goalkeeping, I was one that was not a risk taker. I was more on a consistent side of things. I'm trying to keep myself as fit as possible and in tune. Tried to make the easy saves look easy, and if I could pull off a great save, then that's a bonus for the team. But I always just tried to be as consistent as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, consistent you were as well. And normally on the Football Social, me and Will have a race to see who can hijack the conversation to serve their personal agenda. And I'd like to think that I've won this week. I'm going to ask you a Celtic-related question. Of course, you told me off camera that you had a trial with Celtic, and they could have been one of the clubs that you signed for. But I remember playing Blackburn and it being dubbed the Battle of Britain in the 2003 UEFA Cup. So do you have any memories from that fixture, facing the likes of Henrik Larsson? Or?
Yeah, great memories. If you look, I don't know if you can remember it. And then after I answer the question, I'm going to burst your bubble a little bit. But that was one of the best games that you played in a loss at Parkhead. We were really good on the day, and I remember I played for Martin O'Neill at Aston. About that day, they beat us 1-0 at Parkhead on a corner, and we really did play well on that day. And then it was a shame on the return leg. I think Craig Short slipped, and then I slipped on the same play, and we were down 1-0 early, and we were playing catch up the rest of the time. But a very, very good Celtic team. But just to burst your bubble a little bit, Chris, is that I nearly signed for Rangers as well. So don't think that it was just Celtic.
Just when I thought we'd struck up some sort of friendship, It was literally 30 seconds into Brad logging on. I was already harassing him with Celtic-related questions, and he answered them very patiently. So, that's great. Any conversations that entail Celtic beating English clubs, I'm more than willing to be expansive on. But let's put that to one side for the time being. We've spoke about, you performed admirably against Manchester United. There was obviously memorable European nights at Blackburn. But what is Brad Friedel's single greatest performance of all time, or the game that you enjoyed the most? Does one stick out clearly, or is it a collection of games?
A collection of games. It would be anytime I played for a club and we won the local derby. That, home or away, those were always my favorite games. So if I was at Brøndby and we beat FC Copenhagen, Galatasaray against Fenerbahce, or Besiktas, but more Fenerbahce. When I was at Liverpool with Everton, Man United, Leeds, back when I was there, that was a big one as well. If you're with, when I was with Blackburn, the Burnley game, when Tottenham, Arsenal, and with Villa, the Birmingham, they were always the best feelings. because you work all week for it. The fans are up for it all week, and then when you lose, if you were to lose, you're so dejected going into the next week's training. When you win, everybody around the city that supports the club is happy, and you just have that little moment of respite during your season, where you well and truly can get in your car in the morning, go out, see people, everyone's happy, because it doesn't happen often in a season.
Sounds like you have very British sensibilities, Brad. Is that why you lasted so long in the English game? The commitment to the local derby?
I love living in England. I loved every bit about it. And being a goalkeeper, I think it is the best league to play in. I'd probably think the second best league would probably be the Bundesliga, just as a goalkeeper, because you have the most to do. You have the most to do in the two leagues, and I think it's the most challenging in those two leagues for a goalkeeper. I mean, you could play bottom, you could be top of the league, play bottom of the league, and you still have quite a bit to do. Remember, that was one of the things that Hugo Lloris had to adapt to when he came over to Tottenham. We spoke about it. He's like, when he was at Lyon, he would have sort of 4 to 5 things to do a half. Because Lyon was mainly on top most of the time, and in the Premier League, he might have 4 to 5 things to do every 5 to 6 minutes. And it was a different concentration level and a different mentality going into the games. And he obviously adapted to it. He's an outstanding goalkeeper. But it's something that when you come from abroad, so there were games when I was at Galatasaray, we knew going at home, I might touch the ball 4 or 5 times the whole game. Whereas it didn't happen in the Premier League.
Yeah, very different skill set, I imagine. Very different match experience. So a couple of things while we're getting those great anecdotes from Brad Friedel. So Cedric Suarez off, and Maitland-Niles has come on. Xhaka shaking off an injury there. And we have another price boost for you. Come on, let's have it. Up on screen, the legends behind the scenes. Aubameyang to score was 8-1, is now 10-1. Odds accurate at the time of recording, and are subject to change. FB18 plus to play along. I mean, you faced an absolute pantheon of great strikers. Where do you put Aubameyang? If you were to create a list in your head, Brad, what bracket does he come under?
I'm trying to think if I played against him. He'd be. I'd need a little bit more time playing against him to put him into the. Into that category, because you can watch someone on TV, but if you train with them, especially, you get a real good feel of it. I don't think he's anywhere near the level of your Harry Kane's when it comes to finishing. I think he's up there with the world's best when it's playing off the shoulder of a defender and then running into space. But it's tough for me to really comment on his finishing ability, because I've not faced many of his shots, and I'm trying to think if I was ever really on the field against Aubameyang.
Yeah, I mean, you faced a fair amount of strikers, so we're not asking you for an instant recall. That would be rather insane. Will, let's go over to Social Corner then for some questions, and we might see a reaction to Harry Kane being a better finisher than Aubameyang in the comments. Got to say, Brad.
Isn't that true though?
Mikey.
I mean, would anyone in the country dispute that? In any country, dispute that?
Oh, I mean, it's coincided with a Harry Kane slump in form, hasn't it, and a Tottenham slump in form. So it might be a bit more possible.
I am talking just as a finisher. Who is a better finisher of the ball, Aubameyang or Harry Kane?
Kane's definitely got a better range, doesn't he? But it's difficult because they operate very differently.
Is it difficult because Kane's a Tottenham player and none of you want to admit it?
that could potentially be a factor.
I think Aubameyang's had a better season as a striker off the basis of this season.
I'm not talking about who's had a better season. I'm talking about the better finisher of the football.
This is what we want to see.
Aubameyang's been. I mean, on the basis of this season, Aubameyang probably has been a better finisher. I wouldn't be able to bring up the expected goals stats, but I feel like Aubameyang probably would have been this season. I think Kane's got a better range. Kane can hit it from, can score goals from outside the area, which Aubameyang rarely does. So I think as like a natural finisher from a bigger range, I'd probably say Aubameyang, a more efficient goal scorer.
Brad, who would you
Then
take
Harry
right
Kane.
now in your team if you were to sell for Brad Friedel XI tomorrow?
Not this season though.
Oh, Harry, but I know Harry really, really well. I know him as a guy off the field as well. I know the whole package. That's not a fair question, because he's a super guy, super for a club, great for teammates, incredible hard worker, very humble guy. Like he is the total package. He's everything that you would want as a coach, to be honest with you, and as a player playing alongside of him.
Did you see him as a future captain, as a future superstar? Because obviously he came into he elevated his status pretty rapidly in a short space of time.
Yeah, he had a few loans, and I think one of the question marks about him when he was coming up through the academy ranks was his out-and-out pace. And Harry he works so hard. And he's able to use his body so well, and he's always in such good physical condition that it wasn't so much proving the doubters wrong, because if there weren't people that doubted him, they'd be worried about his pace a little bit, but I don't think anyone has that question now. His finishing has always been, from the time that I knew him, outstanding. But he works at it all the time. But he has such a hard, powerful shot, short back lift, very deceptive for a goalkeeper to save. Very good with his right and his left. Just really difficult to save his shots. And if you are saving them, you're generally only blocking them. Very difficult to catch his shot.
Interesting. I think we might put a poll out. We'll see who comes out on top. We've got Team Aubameyang with Michael, Team Harry Kane with Brad Friedel. I guess I'm still on the fence. I'm being a coward, and Will's joining me because he passed it over to Michael to answer. Don't think we didn't notice.
I'm Team Harry Kane.
Double substitution there. I'm leaning towards Aubameyang. Compelling arguments for both though. Double substitution there. Wijnaldum and Salah coming off, and Divock Origi and Shaqiri coming on for Liverpool. It looks like Kolasinac is warming up as well for Liverpool.
Chris, did you just say
Go on, Brad.
that you're leaning towards? Did you just say you're leaning towards Aubameyang?
He did.
I did. I'm afraid.
Did he?
Yeah,
then I should have signed for Rangers.
Me and you, we both play Premier League football.
Brad, if you asked me who I'd take at their peak, it'd probably be Harry Kane. But at this moment in time, I think it's Aubameyang, and that's how I'm judging it.
How's that fence you're on?
So
Splinters in his bum.
That's my role as the presenter, just to be, vanilla. Right, let's go to social corner and get some questions then.
Yeah, just looking in the chat as well. The chat has come alive. It's like a bonfire in there. Aubameyang, Kane. And to play the role of Chris Hamill, it looks like a 50-50 split at the moment. So keep your votes keeps coming up. There's a poll coming out. So while we wait for that, Brad, bit of a nostalgia question. It was a good one we had in earlier. I can't remember the name of the guy, but what was your favourite goalkeeper jersey that you played in?
Actually, I do know this. That's easy. The Nike kit from the 2002 World Cup that I wore for the US. That was nice. That was my favorite. The black one. It was black top, black shorts, black socks. Little
Brad
Yashin.
On that subject, before I forget, I wanted to. Oh, hello.
Liverpool.
Oh, Sadio Mane missing a very good opportunity down the left-hand side. He was under pressure from the defender. It may have been Maitland-Niles just putting him off balance. He's done enough there, maybe just to scupper the opportunity. I wanted to ask you about USA versus Mexico games. Maybe not something we appreciate on the old continent, but what was the atmosphere like in those games, Brad?
Great home and away. It used to be where it was, even in the U.S., it was all a pro-Mexican crowd. But, when the 2000 qualifying for the 2000 World Cup, that changed. They took the game into Columbus, and it was very much a pro-U.S. crowd. The game at Azteca Stadium, I don't know what the seating capacity is now. They've changed it. Back in the day, and you guys can go look through. I think it was over 100,000. As the United States got better and more competitive, they started getting very nervous, and coaches started getting fired when they would lose to the U.S. And the fans did not like the fact that Americans could all of a sudden play football. So it's a tremendous atmosphere. But so difficult to play. They used to kick off between 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, huge altitude, and like stage 4 and 5 smog alerts. It was tough, really hard to get your breath. And the players, the Mexican players, especially that played in Mexico City, had such a huge advantage. So we started taking Mexico, and I think the U.S. still does this, into Arctic conditions for qualifying. So you play in Columbus in February when it's minus 15.
Love that. Bit of warfare.
Yeah, little gamesmanship.
Big fan of that. McCubbin, I was going to say, you've got quite a fruity collection of shirts. What are you going for, mate? Is your is McCubbin's number one retro?
That's
gone?
my favourite.
Yeah.
I can't really look past. I've got a replica of the Barcelona '92 European Cup final shirt, which was the kind of orange one. Ronald Koeman banging in that free kick against Sampdoria. I think, out of ones that I own, I think that's easily the best. I quite like this Inter one as well, but it's not it's not an actual match shirt. So yeah, it's going to have to be that. But yeah, hoping to add a few more to my collection as well. I was just looking up that goalkeeper jersey actually that you were talking about, Brad, and it is very nice, very clean.
Very clean.
All of those Nike ones actually.
It's more my style.
Yeah, nothing too extravagant.
No. I like the one of the Villa kit my first year. It was either a gray top or a black top. That suited me. We got into all the yellows and the greens and the.
None of the Blackburn kits. Was it McEwen's as the sponsor? Am I remembering that correctly?
That was before I got there. I want to say, the first year. Actually, it could have been McEwen's my first year.
I'm hearing CIS.
A long time ago.
From the gallery.
HSA as well. I think I remember as well.
CIS. There we go.
What a shout that is from the gallery. Whoever's plugged that out. CIS straight away.
And then we had
Blackburn fans in there.
And we had Lonsdale across the front at one stage, I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I do
remember that.
I never paid attention to a lot of that stuff.
It sounds like you did, Brad, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you guys
I played there.
Fanatic on our hands.
No, I like the Nike one. I remember because I used to walk in and see it and be like, really? That's what I'm wearing next year? And I remember that one specifically at Villa, and that one. I was like, oh, I like this one. That's good.
Oh, here we go.
Joe Willock passing up such a good opportunity there, Mike. What happened?
You have no idea how much that was Aubameyang.
A lovely chance created though from Aubameyang. That lovely little dink over the top with his right foot.
It was a very good play by Aubameyang. Just wish the finish was him.
Kane would finish that.
Or Kane, yeah.
That would have taken me to 51-49.
Joe Willett passing for a really good opportunity there. I'm hearing that we're going to get the results from the poll in a few minutes, so we're going to have a definitive winner. But I'm guessing no one's going to change their mind either way. So it's just good to get a gauge on what the guys at home are saying. And if you've not had a question read out by Will in Social Corner yet, then there's plenty of opportunity left. We'll stick around for a few minutes after the final whistle. Certainly not decided this game yet. We've got 5 minutes of injury time, guys, so make sure you get your questions in. Plenty of time to get them answered Arsenal holding on here. Not something I to be honest, I thought would happen. They've not tired in dramatic fashion as they have beforehand. So full credit to Arsenal. Let's see if they can hold it out. Will, have you been holding on to any golden questions?
Oh, yeah. It's like golden balls down here. Reece Nelson is the fifth different player under 20 to score for Arsenal in this Premier League season, joining Saka, Nketiah, Martinelli and Joe Willett. Brad, which leads me to ask, how important is it for Arsenal to bleed these youngsters in?
Yeah, I think it's smart for Mikel Arteta. He'll figure out, where he needs to spend the money. He'll see which players can do a job for him. He'll be able to mold those players better than he'll be able to mold and develop the senior players. I think it's smart. I think it's really smart. Anyone who's in a building phase of a club, with how much transfer fees are, I think it's incredibly important to try to utilize your academy players and bring them up through the ranks as possible. Not every academy player is going to be able to make it, of course, but sometimes you don't know unless you give them the opportunity. On the flip side of that, sometimes if you give them too much of an opportunity, you lose your own job. So I know it's difficult. It's not easy. But where Arsenal is in the table, where Arteta is in the building of the club, I think it's smart.
Yeah, the youngsters doing well, but they have been under the cosh. Just got some fantastic stats in this second half. Liverpool have had 14 attacks to Arsenal's none. 2 shots on target to Arsenal's none. They've had Arsenal have had 79 passes. Liverpool have had 312, and it's been 80% possession to Liverpool. Yet the score is Arsenal 2, Liverpool 1.
That's unreal.
Brad, you must have been part of a few sides that enjoyed winning in a nitty-gritty fashion. How satisfying is it to roll out of town with 3 points when you've been outplayed?
Oh, it's a great feeling, but I have to tell you, I far more enjoyed the game where we were winning 4-0 with 10 minutes to play. There's so many times in the Premier League you'd be winning games 2-0 or 3-1, 3-0, and you'd be away from home and the team would score 1 goal and the crowd just comes alive, and then before you know it, it's 3-2 and all this. You haven't faced a corner hardly all game, and then you're facing 5 in stoppage time. That's the greatest thing about the Premier League. The games just very rarely just sputter out, and the fans keep the game alive more than anywhere else in the world.
Would the one bit of advice, Tottenham, the Tottenham iteration of Brad Friedel, would it pertain to that? If you were to give the Liverpool Brad Friedel, a bit of advice, what would you tell him?
The Liverpool Brad Friedel, I would have, I don't know, I would have smacked myself across the face for playing inconsistent for the first 3 months. So wake up. It didn't happen anywhere else in my career, and I'm not a nervous character. I don't really. People ask me all the time, what happened. I did not make a good first impression, and first impressions last sometimes. The Tottenham, by the end of it, I was a seasoned pro. I knew I was not going to be the long-term number one. I was very calm when I was at Tottenham. I knew what my job was. Daniel Levy made it very apparent. Harry Redknapp did. Then when AVB took over, there was not a lot of issues or aggro. It was very fun work for 4 years at Tottenham.
That's absolutely spot on, I guess. What was the most complete side that you played in as a goalkeeper?
I
said as a goalkeeper there, like you played in a number of positions. What was the most complete side you played in? I was one eye on the game there.
The Tottenham team the first year, we had a real opportunity to win the league. We had players like your Stephen Pienaars and Peter Crouches, Nico Crankier, veteran Trolucas, David David Bentley's, Sebastian Bassong's, Pavlyuchenko that most of the time didn't even make matchday squads. We had a real strong group of players that year, with Van der Vaart, Modric, Bale, Adebayor, Scotty Parker, on and on and on. Benoit Sakato was a tremendous left back that season. Kyle Walker and Kyle Naughton's, and on and on and on. We had a very, very good team. I think we had a slow march. Other than that, we were exceptional that season.
Yeah, and that is an exceptional result for Arsenal, who run out 2-1 victors at the Emirates over Liverpool, despite that dominant second half that Will broke down for us. Unbelievable 3 points for Arsenal. I'm not sure anyone envisaged that at the start of the show. Like I said, still plenty of time to get some questions to Brad at the end. But for now, I just wanted final thoughts on the game and the result from you guys. So starting with you, Mike, what did you make of that second half?
Yeah, I mean, like the stats that Will was putting out just then, that was an even more dominant second half from Liverpool than I kind of was seeing, to be honest. But I think, yeah, like I said, Arsenal's defence was pretty impressive, all things told. Martinez had to be called upon on 2 or 3 occasions. I think that Salah chance was massive. But aside from that, I didn't. There weren't too many points where I really feared for that Arsenal defence. I thought they stayed very compact. The substitutions seemed to work as well. Thought Willock played well when he came on. Ainsley Maitland-Niles did as well. And they managed to create a chance on the break as well towards the end. So yeah, I think that will do a lot for Arsenal's confidence, because that back line does get called out a lot, and maybe a little bit too much, because I don't think that's necessarily where all their problems lie. So amazing result for Arsenal.
What are people saying in the comments? Will they agree with Michael's assessment, or were Arsenal actually good for their victory there?
Yeah, definitely, and lots of different shouts for different players. So, Brad, who do you think was your man of the match?
No one. I've got to give an Arsenal player man of the match.
Sorry, Brad. Part of your duties tonight.
Okay, then it has to be the goalkeeper, Martinez. No. I thought Liverpool were the better team at the top of the program. I thought my only fear for Liverpool mentality of where they're at in the season and the 2 sloppy goals that they gave away. But I also do think with as much ball as Liverpool had, that Arsenal did defend pretty well. I would probably give their back 3 and the goalkeeper, sort of a joint, man of the match, if you like, because keeping Liverpool at bay when not having the ball for so long is not an easy thing to do. Arsenal were not comfortable, but I feel they maybe not deserved to draw is probably the right result with how much of the ball Liverpool had, but fair play to them, and they got the 3 points, and I can't stop stuttering when I'm giving Arsenal compliments.
There we have it. Brad Friedel, Aubameyang, man of the match, and a better finisher than Harry Kane. He's finally admitted it. No, let's go to the Premier League table to see how that affects the Premier League, obviously. Sorry, I just catch my breath, gentlemen. Breathless last 10. Yeah, Liverpool can no longer reach 100 points. Therefore, Pep's 17-18 City side hold on to that record. And Arsenal go to 53 points. So Europa League football is on in the dying embers of this season. Still all left to play for. Things going their way with the Wolves result as well. Right, let's wrap up this game. After the bottom of the table, which, like we established before, not a lot of permutations. Norwich relegated in pretty emphatic fashion. Aston Villa, Bournemouth and Watford still all to play for, including West Ham. Definitely part of that dogfight, aren't they? But things will become much clearer once this game week is finished. Gentlemen, not the result we were expecting. And I'm sure there's people with plenty to say in the comments, Will. But let's get 2 or 3 questions asked to Brad in pretty quick fire fashion, and then we can round off this show, mate.
Yeah, well, let's clear up one of the biggest talking points, and it wasn't the game. It was me and Brad Friedel versus Chris Hamill and Mikey McCubbin. Aubameyang versus Kane. The power of social media has come to the fore. The poll has been out. The poll has finished. And with 62.9% of the vote, statistically, emphatically, the best finisher in the Premier League is Harry Kane. Well done, Brad.
Well played.
Man of the people, Brad. You've already won over their favour. 1 episode, no loyalty in this game.
At least I got something right today.
What else have we got from Social Corner then, Will? Let's get a couple more questions, buddy.
Yeah, loads flying in as well. Brad, what in your mind is the best save you ever made?
Great question.
There's one. It was either I think it was against Steven Gerrard at Ewood Park. Low. It was just right around the 18-yard box. Low to my left. That was a decent one, or one maybe against Didier Drogba at Chelsea. That was high to my left. Those were decent ones. Probably, I don't know if they were the most important ones, but those were 2 when I look back on it that I like, because they were both, my left side was my weaker diving side that I had to work harder on, so I like the fact that I made the saves. There was a decent one against Van Nistelrooy off of a breakaway in the League Cup semi-finals at Old Trafford once that was decent to my left, I think it was, as well. I don't know, I never really thought about my saves that much. I got those from, I'd forgotten they even took place, and then I did goals on Sunday when I retired, and they showed them to me. I couldn't even remember them. They wanted me to pick out 5, and I was like, guys, I can't remember, and they picked them out, and I was like, oh. So I don't know. I'm old now, guys. Come on, I can't think of stuff like
that. Sorry to interject. When Steven Gerrard goes to wind up a shot, Brad, can you take us through your thought process in the next in the next split second? What do you do as a goalkeeper?
No, it was Stevie I played with. So I faced a lot of his shots. Albeit he was young coming up through Liverpool, but nothing. You react to the ball. You don't do anything. I mean, he hit a great strike, very powerful. But you just react. I mean, and most of the time you don't even know who it is taking the shot, especially if it's a midfielder and the ball's laid back. Every now and again you can clock on, who it is, but most of the time you're reacting to the shot. I used to look at the plant foot and used to look at the shape of the hips and then react to the shot. Never the eyes. Looking at the eyes is the wrong thing to do. All in that split
second.
Yes.
I mean, that was a great question. I'm not sure how we follow that up, Will, but have you got one before we plug next week's show?
Yeah, well, let's go around the panel as well. Brad, we'll start with you. We've got a race for the top 4. Who do you think will get into that top 4?
I'm hoping it's Tottenham. It's not looking great at all for them. I mean, you have Liverpool and Man City. I think Man United, Chelsea just might do it.
Mikey?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually agree with you on this one, Brad. I think United and Chelsea just look stronger than Leicester.
That's just because of the Kane Aubameyang thing.
Well, I was always fighting a losing battle there, taking on a legendary Prem keeper with who's the best finisher. I have no experience, but and clearly the public saw right. But I think United and Chelsea as well. I think Leicester have their form really has dropped off quite a lot after lockdown and even before then. And they've got the slightly harder games as well. Obviously, they're playing United on the last day as well. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with United Chelsea. Hamill?
I mean, I would absolutely love Leicester to qualify, and they've been in pole position, haven't they, for many months now, but they seem to be, keen on throwing it away. And Manchester United's form has been pretty ominous. I mean, it's not exactly accelerated them up the table, has it? They've kind of just steadied the ship in many ways, and had a few excellent games rather than it be continued excellence. But yeah, I actually think Leicester are going to finish fifth and miss out. They've got Manchester United on the final day of the season, so it could be a grandstand finish. So yeah, it might all go down to that. That'd be a wonderful football social to watch anyway. And on that topic, Will, actually no, I don't want to be rude. I want to ask you what you think. Sorry. Oh, I will do it after this. My bad. Wednesday, the July 22nd, football social is back with Liverpool versus Chelsea. What a game! 8 PM, Soccer AM. And Football Daily YouTube, home of the Football Social. You guys know this by now, and if you're not subscribed, then subscribe to both channels and make sure that you set a reminder for next week. Will, I didn't ask you. I was being rude. What do you think, mate? Final 4 positions.
Quite frankly, I couldn't give a hoot, Chris, to be honest, because the Blues are staying up. The Djukovic has scored another back post header. Birmingham will be in the Championship, and we're going to get promoted next season. But Manchester United and Chelsea, to answer your question.
I love it. That was like a lovely cushioned header moment. You got Birmingham City in there at the very end of the stream. What a perfect way to end it. Brad, thank you very much for joining us. Fantastic insight, fantastic anecdotes. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
No, I did. And nice to be on with you guys and enjoy all the success with your various clubs, except for Celtic, except for Man United, and except for Birmingham. I got that right, correct?
Yeah, spot on, Brad.
Love it.
Lovely to have you.
All right.
Burning all bridges at the death.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
Going out in style. Mikey, thanks for joining us, bud.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be with all of you tonight.
always had a bit of flavour with those wavy garms. Will, I mean, when are you back, mate?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to speak to you after the show, mate. Hopefully very soon, because it's always a pleasure. Never a
play your
chore.
cards right then.
Yeah. Just
right,
just
that is it,
here,
guys. Make sure to watch next week's show. It's going to be a huge tie. Come and join us for some more great guests, great chat. Until then, stay safe. Bye.